this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. He's going for two. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Caught him!
One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heck of a play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. Caught him!
One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. Caught him!
One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Caught him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heck of a play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. Caught him!
One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. Caught him!
One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you
All right, we are back after a little bit of a week absence there. I mean, Kalen's been gone for about 2 weeks. He had a couple things going on. We'll let him tell you about that. But we're back. We took the Monday off for the holiday. Hopefully the boys are rested and recovered. I know Chad is. He looks fired up. I've never seen that much excitement in Chad's face to start the show. So, Chad, maybe I'll just shoot it over to you before we blow his moment here. Go ahead.
Man, I was just trying to read. It's a big thing for me. All my teachers would be so proud right now. They're like, this guy can read.
And I spoiled it.
You did. Now you just put me on the spot. So now everybody in North America and the one guy in Germany that watches us is like, wow, that guy actually can read. That's why he played football. It all makes sense now.
Hey, you're doing a great job over there. I know that you're working on the article, so I was just going to blow you up. But, yeah, right now we're counting down Bucs, and I said blowing you up.
Got me. That's why I was excited.
Yeah. Liam, how do you cut this guy's mic? Jeez. Counting down for the Bucs and the Eagles. Right now, you got a few more minutes to go get our No More Hedges bet. Usually we would do a same game in parlay, but right now we are doing the Tampa Bay Lightning -1.5 and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -4.5. It's paying plus 270. It was actually donated by one of our friends in one of our DMs, but I can't remember his name, so I'm not going to say it. So
was that Matt?
Thanks to him, go cash your tickets. But yeah, let's.
I think I heard you say something about hockey. Hockey's back. I love it.
Well, hockey's back, but I wanted to keep the smile on Chad's face. But maybe before we dig into the sports news, Kalen, why don't you jump in and tell us what you've been doing the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, man. I had my son was born last week, so I've been kind of dealing with that. I've been hanging out at home around the house and changing some diapers and feeding some babies and having a good time and walking, doing some stuff with my other kid too. So just being a dad, it's been kind of nice.
Sweet. Yeah,
man.
I mean,
what's most important though, and I know you guys are he's obviously a Titans fan. He's going to be a Titans fan. He's going to be a Devils fan, right? But most importantly, man, the world got another Colts and Rangers hater, and that's all that matters. I truly don't even care if he decides to not be my favorite team's fans. If he decides to even be a Steelers fan, I'll be okay, as long as he hates the Colts as much as I do.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe he will, and I'm just hoping for your sake that you get the dad bod that Tom Brady did, because as soon as he started having kids, that guy turned into a freak of nature. So
certainly wasn't named after him, was it?
Yeah, we'll get that Kalen that TB12 diet. It's a lifestyle, not a diet, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen Kalen's diet. There's no TB12 in there unless that's a combo at McDonald's.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
If the shoe fits, right, Shane?
Hey, I like those spicy chicken nuggets too. But we're not going to talk about spicy chicken nuggets the whole time because they don't pay us to. Bucs and Eagles. Feels like maybe we have to put a little extra emphasis on this game because it sucks so much. But any way in your mind that the Eagles can make this happen? I mean, it's a home game for them at least, right?
Yeah. They have a defense. Their defense has shown sparks this year. They certainly have a pass rush. Is it going to be enough to go against Brady's offensive line? If I sat here and said yes, I think Shad would he'd have a few things to say to me. Listen, they're going to show sparks. It's not going to be enough to win the game, I don't think, but they're going to show sparks,
Right.
and that's all you can really ask for with a team where the Eagles are right now, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, this game is, this is one of those games where you have to remind yourself where we were at a couple of years ago where there was no sports on. Because tonight, not only do we have this game, but there's probably some college football you can find. There's definitely a baseball game tonight. The Giants and the Dodgers are playing, and hockey's back. I mean, the fact that the Canadian arenas are allowed to have fans in them, that makes a big difference. But
yeah,
like I said, we're not much of a hockey talk show when Chad's on here because he's just going to get more pissy. So
I'm not pissy.
yeah,
I
we'll
just don't
circle
care.
back.
Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned quickly there before we went into the football. You talked about playoff baseball. We're talking about the Giants and the Dodgers playing. It's nice to see the Red Sox moved on. Do you think they could catch a little bit of heat here, Shane, and maybe make it all the way to the World Series?
Yeah,
Can they?
I do.
Yeah, I really
do,
do think that they
because-
can too. Their bats are there, right?
Yeah. I mean, and when it comes down to it, the Astros aren't that good. But like I said, if we talk about anything other than football, Chad's going to get upset. So let's focus, Kalen. Let's focus your mind here. Hone in your cool bet sweater, and tell me, can you think of a team, like a team like the Bears? Are they a dangerous team in the NFC right now?
In the NFC as a whole,
Yeah.
Uh,
Are they a dangerous team?
no. They're gonna have a tough time. They would have a difficult time winning their division. So
Well, yeah, you don't have to win your division to be a dangerous team.
I just don't think that they would have the opportunity to even get a wild card berth. Like I think they're just not a strong enough team. They sure talking about teams showing flashes. This is a team that Matt Nagy is still coaching. Until that guy is out of that team, I don't think that they have enough to really be a successful squad.
He's not calling plays anymore, though. Look at the positive.
Oh yeah, he made sure to announce that right when the team was having success.
Well,
But
yeah, he's
I-
going to get fired.
Mhm.
When it comes down to it, like, you don't think that the Bears defense is good enough to keep them in games? Like, is the last couple of weeks, even though, I mean, we're talking about them beating up a bad Lions team and a Raiders team that will circle around a little bit later, but the Raiders offense was good. The Bears defense they were able to shut them down, and what they did on offense was just enough to get over the hump. So you don't think that this is a team that can get in as the seventh wild card or seventh
I
playoff
don't.
team, like the last wild card?
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
think they're a playoff team. I do believe they're dangerous in the fact that they're going to play spoiler a bunch this season. I think that's where they're dangerous. I think they're that kind of team where no one's going to take them serious, and I think that's what's going to get you in trouble. Having a guy like Justin Fields now starting, he's more dynamic. You can't plan for him. There's no tape on him yet. The problem is now they're down 2 running backs. Montgomery's out for about close to, looks like they're saying now 4 to 5 more weeks.
Right.
Williams just got 1-9. So they have a guy named Herbert coming in. So hopefully he can play behind that O-line. They start getting the ball to Allen Robinson, not just for my fantasy team, just because he's the only playmaker they have right now. They have to find Cole Kmet as that safety valve. Excuse me. But yeah, can they win a couple games? I do. I do agree with Kayla, though. They're not a playoff team. But I think they're that sneaky team where they might win 7 games, but those 7 games could keep a team or two out of the playoffs. They would knock out the 6th and 7th seed. I think that's the kind of role they're going to play in the NFC.
Like
So they're dangerous as a spoiler, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good call. I honestly think you could have 3 teams come from the NFC South, and then we were hype on the NFC West for quite some time. Now the Seahawks are going to take a big hit here. I don't think that Geno's going to be able to carry the torch here as well as Russell. So maybe we could still say 2 teams, potentially the Niners figure it out, but I think 2 teams come out of the NFC West. So if you got 3, I think really do come out of the NFC South, and then 2 coming from the West. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room.
Okay, well, yeah, don't unpack that too much because then you're going to pull out all the content that I'm going to talk to you about for the entire show. 'Cause 2 of the things that you talked about there and the next things that I'm going to talk to you about. So don't unpack that too deeply. The fact that the
Planting
Bears are
seeds.
playing the fact that the Bears are playing the Packers this week, obviously that's a big game no matter whether both teams suck or both teams are good. Now, what do the Bears have to do against the Packers to change your opinion of where they're at in the playoff seeding? or playoff contention. I don't want to say playoff seeding.
Sacks. They're not really high in sacks. Is Khalil Mack even? How many sacks does he have so far this year?
I mean, he's been a little bit hurt, but you're saying if they can produce sacks, then they're going to be more of a playoff team.
They need pressure. Absolutely, they need pressure.
Yeah, but
but their offense is. I don't think there's anything in their offense that's going to get solved. There really isn't. As Chad mentioned, they have no playmakers outside of Allen Robinson, and he's on my fantasy, one of my teams too, Chad. So I know how little he's done all year so far. So now they're going to lean on him, and he's been the one of 3 people there that have been able to catch a ball, and now they're going to go down to one of 2. I just don't think it's really going to be the better option for a rookie quarterback, as much as Fields has shown.
I like the name that Chad said. Cole Kmet is the guy that is probably going to break. It's actually over the next couple weeks, you're going to see a few of the Notre Dame U tight ends breaking out here because there's another guy in Carolina that no one's ever
Tommy
heard of.
Tremble. That guy's unreal. And so fast.
I promise you, unless you're a Carolina or a Notre Dame fan, you do not know who this guy is. I only know who he is because I watched a shit ton of Notre Dame games with Chad.
Can I tell you who he reminds me of, and I'm going to take serious heat for this, and I'm not trying to be funny. He actually reminds me of a lot of Aaron Hernandez because he can play anywhere on the field. He's super fast.
On the field, hopefully. On the field, hopefully.
He's a good kid from Notre Dame. But yeah, like he takes handoffs on the backfield. He's lined up at running back. He's taking sweeps around the edge too from the tight end position, and he runs those intermediate routes really, really well. It's because of his speed and his size, and that's where he reminds me of him. And like it sucks because he was a good football player. Unfortunately, he was batshit crazy out the field, and now it's like an insult to compare somebody to him. But he was a phenomenal tight end, and I think I can't think of his name now. Tremble. I can't think of his name, first name offhand.
Tommy?
Yeah, no. Tommy. Is it Tommy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tommy Harrell. I think he's going to be a really dynamic tight end, and the Panthers just got another weapon for themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, if you want to stash somebody on your roster, if you're in Dynasty, he's the guy to go and get. But yeah, okay. So, I mean, that's pretty much enough about the Bears. I didn't want to lead off with the Super Boost because, I don't want anybody just coming on the show and seeing our Super Boost and then taking off and stealing all of our money. But now we'll do our Super Boost presented by CoolBet. Obviously, it's live only on CoolBet. All of us are wearing our CoolBet swag today. Not planned.
Unplanned.
Just happened. Yeah, it just happened. So here we go. 3-game parlay. We got the Panthers and Tommy Tremble on the money line. We got the Cardinals and the Browns to go over 46.5. And the Steelers and the Seahawks to go over 41.5. That's paying plus 650 right now. I feel pretty good about that one. I almost feel too good about it. Like when I saw the payout, I was like, man, I got to email Pat back and maybe we change this thing because it feels like it's too good to be true.
We need a win, though. We've taken some hard losses. Like we lost last week by a half point.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
The week before we missed one game. We're missing it every time just by a little bit. And we got to hit one here because we got to reclaim ourselves, and then we got to make some memes to insult CoolBet because that's what we do.
Yeah, I know. I actually went at them on Sunday morning, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll see." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I cannot say another word to those guys because absolutely they took care of us." But as I mentioned, we were going to talk a little bit about Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Naturally, they have a game against the Steelers. We don't have to break too much into that because it's 2-3 versus 2-3. But can the Seahawks, do they have enough firepower anywhere on their roster to hang around in the race until Russ comes back?
No. They don't have a running game. That's the biggest thing. Not like Geno Smith, he's a backup quarterback. He showed flashes with the Jets. They have no way to control the clock. And as Kalen loved to point out last year, they moved the ball with, what'd you call them last year, Kalen?
Moonshots.
Yeah, there'll be none of those this year. There'll be no moonshots with Geno Smith playing quarterback.
I don't think Geno's got the moonshot arm.
No, he definitely doesn't. So yeah, I think they're in trouble. The scary part to me is like, do they actually have any first round picks left? I know they always trade them away. But like they could get a top 7 pick. And I think at this point, that's what they need to focus on. Like, don't tank your season on purpose, but if Russell's going to be out late and you're out, I think you just roll with Geno and keep Russell healthy.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
and-
Is it wrong that I think like that, or?
No, and what you're saying, and Kalen, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I'm
you're
gonna
good.
forget if I don't say this right now. I was thinking the same thing about the Colts, because I mean the Colts shit the bed against the Ravens. They're 1-4 right now, but imagine that team picking in the top 5 if they were healthy. You know, like they get themselves healthy for that's a dangerous recipe for you. You might have to root for the Colts to win a few games so that they don't get a top 5 pick out of this thing, eh?
Oh, I know. Thank God there's just no generational quarterback talent in the draft because that's usually how it happens for the Colts. But they've got
mouth.
you're right. They could get a high draft pick, and I think they're projected to be either the top 1 or 2 through 3 projected salary cap teams. Like they're gonna have so much money to spend too. So it's certainly they could have done it this year and they didn't. So I'm just hoping that maybe they just keep kicking that can down the road. Hopefully.
And Aaron Rodgers does a radio show every Tuesday in Indianapolis.
Stop it, bro.
So wouldn't that be something?
I don't want any of that. But listen to this.
I don't want to turn this into like a cult show. I don't. You can talk about what you're going to talk about or say what you're going to say. I just don't want you to feel like I was cutting you off again.
No, you're good. So like their next few set of games too, guys, it's going to be a really tough go for Geno. So he starts off. We already know they've got the Steelers this week. I don't think the Steelers offensively are very good, Shane, unfortunately, but they're going to have that defense that they've always had. And you said something before the show, they're not only good for 3 quarters kind of thing.
Well,
and I watched part of the game. I stopped watching actually the Steelers and Broncos game after nearly the end of the third quarter when I guess everything had changed for them. But what I saw was typical Steelers football, man. They were Watt was back in the field, and that's all that matters. They just need to have that one true edge rusher.
During the Packers game, the Steelers figured something out offensively, and they were able to keep Big Ben upright because they're chipping and crack blocking.
Yeah,
you missed the show that Rick and I and Chad were talking about it. We were making fun of Kirk and crack block, but I'm telling you, their offense is going to be better.
Well, I'm going to stand from that's my belief anyway. I still think that the Seahawks are going to get beat up this week for sure, and then they got the Saints next week. That's a hit or miss game. I just don't think Geno can really go toe to toe in that game with the Saints defense either. They're going to have an off week against the Jags. They have their bye week, and then they finish up with the Packers and the Cardinals before Russ gets back. So it's going to be a tough go for Geno. There's no doubt, right? Like
at least they get the Jags.
Exactly. You have the Jags, and then you have your bye week. So I mean that it's kind of like back-to-back bye weeks almost. But it is going to be rough. I don't know if that's really going to be enough to hang around in the NFC West because I really don't see the Rams, faltering at all. The Niners, I mean, like they're kind of taking a nosedive there. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. But tough division, man. You can't lose 2 games and still stay in that division.
And there's an upstart team like the Bears that you got to watch out for.
Oh my God. Get off this team. Why do you like them so much? They're like your new Broncos this year? Is it the B teams?
I'm not going to crown them the new Broncos because that means they might fall apart. Because last year I felt really good. You guys remember I think I put them in 13-3, win the division, and none of that stuff happened. Not even close. They might have been 3-13.
You might have said Drew Lock was going to win the MVP for the next 10 years.
No, I did.
You came out and said Patrick Mahomes who? That's what I remember.
Well, and maybe it was a year too early then because Patrick Mahomes who this year.
I am really interested to see as far as matchups go though in that game. I'm interested to see Minka going up against DK because I do think that Geno, you're right, doesn't have the moonshot arm, but he's certainly going to be giving DK opportunities. There's no doubt about that, right? When he came in, that's all he did.
Off the line.
No, he's going to be over top of him. I think the DK is going to burn anybody off the line, and it's going to have to be Minka covering over top to help.
It's going to be a corner on DK with Edmonds over the top because if they go head to head, the Steelers don't want Minka trying to tackle DK. They want their 235-pound safety, Terrell Edmonds, who's built like a brick shithouse, to give him a lick or two.
I'm talking about as being a ball hawk, going for the ball. Minka and DK would be great ball fight. You know what I mean? At the point of attack kind of thing. That's what you see in those combine drills. This is what Minka was drafted for, right? The point of attack. So that's going to be a great matchup to see for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that one's going to be good. And, Chad was shitting on this game before we came on here, but another game that actually is going to shape a few things. And maybe we should clarify before we start talking about this next subject. We are not going to talk about anything in relation to what someone did in email and condone it. Like none of that stuff is going to happen. We are strictly talking from a football perspective of how a team is going to react to losing their coach. The rest of the stuff is for everyone else to figure out. we're literally just people that talk about sports.
Mhm.
So the question that I want to ask is, can the Raiders bounce back against the Broncos this week? And can the Raiders power through losing their coach midway through the season?
No.
That's it. Fork in them, they're done.
I think they might win a couple more games. They're not winning this week. I'll tell you that right now. They're also missing a defensive captain, so I think that's going to come into play. And that's also a leader and a voice in your locker room. I think that's huge. And yeah, like just given everything and like all the distraction, and Derek Carr had his interview and he did not look okay. And I think that's the
Derek
biggest
Carr's
thing.
like a genuinely good guy, right? Like I think
like
that
he was
just, like,
naturally disturbed by what happened, and I don't think
as
he's
he
going to be
should
able to
be.
flush it that fast.
Yeah.
And so, and Gruden being a quarterback guy, that's where he would spend most of his time.
Mhm.
And so you lose that going into a game. I don't care who you are, how mentally strong you are. That's going to impact. And like, I don't think the Raiders are as good as what their record showed in the first place. And divisional game, the Broncos are the Broncos, but I think at the same time the Raiders are the Raiders. But this time I think the Broncos are coming out on top. And I think that
Yeah,
you're going to see
I
that
think the Broncos are
decline.
better than I thought they were. I don't know if you got like that was the first game I watched of them the other night, but like I kind of agree with Chad. I think he might be onto something.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here, and I'm going to say that Derek Carr is one of the most checked out quarterbacks in the sense that, I mean, that he's setting audibles at the line. Quite often, he's a checkout quarterback. He's calling the play at the line. He's been doing that all year. He's been in this offense for quite some time now. If there's a quarterback that I think that could do that with this type of offense, it's Derek Carr. I think at this point in his career, he should be able to do that. There's going to be a lot of weight put on his shoulders because I don't even know the interim head coach. I think is a defensive guy, if I remember right. Is he not? Defensive
There's a
line
special
coach or
teams
something?
coach, but
Oh, is that what he is?
Yeah.
I thought he had like an offensive background. But anyway, so I think that, I don't know who was exactly calling, like if it was, the coach calling it, Gruden calling it, or if it was the offensive coordinator, but Derek Carr certainly can take it on. As far as like being able to continue, the Raiders are very fortunate in having a GM that's as well known and been around as long as Mike Mayock as well. His name carries some weight too, and I think still having him in that room in the meeting after it all happens to be there to try and pull the team back together. They're very fortunate, I think, to have a guy like that leading the team, leading the helm right now. So taking a step back, it's going to be a rough couple of weeks going against a division opponent. It's going to be really difficult to bet against that. But I do think in the long run, I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be okay.
So, yeah, okay. Right now they're at 3-2. So, what's their record at the end of this?
Well, it depends. Here's what I think: Josh Jacobs has to come back for this team to be successful. When Chad has said, mentioned, they don't think
he's back. They're just not running that way.
They're not running because he's got that toe injury that has to take him out every third play. He's not back to his 100%. He has to be back nearly healthy for them to be successful. They have to be able to lean on him and get back to what the Raiders offense was going to be that preseason. Well, preseason didn't really have any starters, but they tried to show some of their offense and the first game there before he got injured. They could, if they have that there and they're not leaning on Kendrick, what's his name? Kendall Drake?
Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake. Sorry,
Kenyon Drake's not getting any carries. It's the other guy that's getting all the love.
It's Peyton Barber.
Barber. Yeah, leaning on these two guys as far as to be their running backs, I think that they can be successful. They just need to get that player back. Their defense, I've said this multiple times, gets pressure, gets to the quarterback. They got guys that do not take plays off. So if that can be successful against the Chiefs right now, if it's you're going up against the Chiefs, you're looking up the Chiefs and the Chargers right now. The Chiefs' offensive line is an absolute wreck right now, and that's the team that you need to beat to stay successful because I don't think they can look up to the Chargers right now.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know many teams that could sustain losing a coach of that magnitude and win their following game, especially if it's against a rival. Like, only one comes to mind recently and didn't work out.
Who are you referring to?
I got you, Chad. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, the Raiders have been a hit and miss team over the last, 5, 10, 15 years. Derek Carr, yeah, is he mentally tough enough to fight through this? Hopefully. I mean, I think that it would be good for him. Like, he's a guy that you want to root for at least. But the way
I
that
think
their
it's
offense
time for a
runs is
change of
just,
scenery for him.
yeah, I agree. I agree with Chad, and maybe if they get out of it, maybe Mariota comes in and they just kind of let Carr ride himself into the sunset and go somewhere else, because he usually gets himself hurt in week 15 or 16, so doesn't want to do that if he's going to be switching teams anyway.
Mariota gets hurt every other game too.
Yeah, well,
rotational quarterbacks there then.
Yeah, but he's
they
not
still
the
get
future.
Peterman, right?
Peter, is he still there?
Oh,
Well, yeah, he won't be there because that's John's boy. But yeah, he won't be there.
yeah. Well,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of beating that one into the ground there. So we'll see what comes out of it. I would say the safest bet on the board this week is probably taking the Broncos -3.5. But that's just my opinion. At least it's not a home game for the Raiders, for the Raiders. But yeah, staying in division, our boy Clyde Edwards-Helaire tears his ACL or sprains his MCL or whatever. Whatever. He did something to his knee. It looks like he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks.
Injury.
Yeah, it was ugly. They obviously don't have a lot of faith in what they have because they're actually out in the running back market right now. They're trying to make a move for Marlon Mack.
Yeah.
Now, if you're them, why are you making the move for Marlon Mack and not Todd Gurley?
Oh, man, Marlon. Well, at this stage of his career, seeing what I've seen out of Marlon Mack, with him playing in the division, he's exactly what Andy Reid would want. He is that receiving running back. He's shifty enough. He pass blocks really, really well. And that's one of the big losses that the Colts have had going into that third down, him coming off the field now and putting Naeem Hines in there. Hines is good, but he's certainly a downgrade when it comes to pass blocking. There's a lot that Marlon Mack can bring to the table. It's a shame that for him as a player, that he wore it as welcome in Indy somehow. I love it because he was a third down killer, man. And he's a really good runner too between the tackles, much better than I thought he was going to be.
Chad, as our coach on here, I want you to tell me how you would scheme a running back into your defense. Because I don't know how trading for another running back is going to make your defense any better, but I'm hoping that you have some coaching insights that might change my mind.
Yeah, it's called Get Derrick Henry. That is the only one. That is the only way that you scheme a running back into your defense. Unfortunately, there's no running backs out there who can play and take over games out there that are free agent or else they'd be signed.
Right.
The Chiefs don't have a problem scoring. They can't stop anybody. You don't really run the ball anyways. And as far as I remember being a football fan, and I'm going to say in my adult life, or at least teenage to adult life, Andy Reid has always looked really good with mediocre running backs. And he's made them look great. So to go out there and be pushing to try to find
I hope
one.
Brian Westbrook's not watching the show right now.
When they well, I'm sure he's out there, Matt, cursing at me somewhere. But that's what he's done. He's made running backs turn them into stars, turn them into Pro Bowlers. He got running backs paid for the offense that he runs. So for them to be searching for a running back, that really makes you worried about what's actually on their depth chart and how bad is it. Also, you can't stop anybody. And to be worried about running back when you don't even use them, you got to fucking ass backwards. How about you maybe give one of these draft picks and go get a DB, get some back end help. You give up a first or second. You can't pay them anyways. You paid the whole offense, everything,
Right.
So you have no money on defense. You got to figure out a way to do this. You're not going to get a top defensive back at the back end of the draft. Like I still think exactly what the Steelers did. They gave him a first round pick to get Mika. It's the best thing they could have done, I think. You weren't going to get a player of that caliber where they draft.
Never.
Kaylin, you awake over there?
Yeah. I'm just looking. I was trying to figure out if Chris Jones is due back. Like, what's going on with him? Because I know that he was injured and I know he was inactive the last game, and that's going to be a big part of their defense. Obviously, you lose a player like Chris Jones, it's significant. But I don't know if when he's due back at all here, because he didn't play last week, right?
But,
yeah, I mean, I guess he could slow down the run game, but yeah, go ahead, Chad. Sorry, finish.
But yeah, you can't stop anybody in the pass game. Look at the division you're in. You got to stop the Chargers. You got to figure out a way to do that. The Browns are looking significantly better. They run the football. They're not winning football games like they should be, but they're going to score. And are you going to be able to keep up with them? Like your offense has got, I think their offense has gotten worse since the beginning of the season. It's that simple, and you can't run the ball, and you have no one over top. So like you have no safeties outside of Tyrann Mathieu playing horrible. I think he's trying to do too much because he realizes how bad they are. He's coming down into the box way too often to play the running. I think he's getting beat. Sorensen's slow. He can't take anybody deep. I think the photo explained it great with Matthew just doing one of these in the background as he's just watching everybody run by him. So there's some things going on there. Steve Spagnuolo is a phenomenal defensive coordinator. He's won Super Bowls, won championships, and they are looking on defense less than mediocre.
Sorensen, you mentioned it. That's one of the biggest Achilles heels of that defense is that he gets taken over the top far too much. He gets second guessed he second guesses far too much. Snead has taken quite a big step back from last year because he was definitely a really pretty good corner last year. So that's enough, and he's on the same side as Sorensen. So that side is just getting picked on all day long. So I don't know what they got to do at safety in order to replace that. But Sorensen has not been he wasn't the answer last year. He was a liability. I don't know what they thought they were going to get out of him this year. But like you said, he's slow, and it's very apparent how slow he is.
Sorensen's been a problem on their defense for the last 6 years. He must be like a relative of Andy Reid or something, because there's no way that guy would continue to come out there. Like he looks like a Bond villain. He's slow. I remember in a playoff game in Kansas City, Antonio Brown just eating that kid's lunch.
Well, there's no way that you can't tell me that Juan Thornhill is not better than him. Like there's no way. Like we saw Juan Thornhill get to play last year. We got to see him play in preseason this year. Anything is better than what Sorensen's put on the field so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the sky's falling in Kansas City a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a running back, so
Super Bowl hangover.
Maybe.
Huh? Really starting to happen.
Hey, when you pay your quarterback more than 33% of your team's salary, it comes back and bites you in the ass. So.
Right. Yeah.
And then you paid Kelsey and you paid Tyreek. There's no money to go around.
You know, with all the running back injuries they have there, I bet you Tyreek will line up in the backfield quite a bit more this year or this weekend. Until they kind of get things figured out there and people like knowing the playbook and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you know, like it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. They got Washington this week. It looks like they were pretty low on Washington as far as are pretty high on Washington as far as the spread goes. The Washington's defense hasn't looked very good either. This might be one of those get right games where Kansas City just comes out and shit kicks them. But it also might be one of those games where Kansas City lets us down again. I could tell you that even though that spread looks like a little low for what I thought, I'm not touching that game at any point. Not interested. We'll see how it goes. Let's get the Chiefs back on the roll before we talk to them. All right. Well, maybe we should move on to our friend Kelly's favorite segment of every Thursday show when we talk about college football. I'm not sure if she's on there yet, but our friend Kaylin kind of had a tough.
I got the orange behind me, and I probably should change that, eh?
Well,
it's a bittersweet weekend.
Too, so.
Yeah, yeah. You can't dye your hair. We posted out our potential college football rankings. Right now, Chad, what did I do? Trimmed it down to 14. We have 14 teams.
14, yeah, 14.
Yeah, with a realistic chance, a path to get in. Now, I guess I took some shit on it this week because the Big Ten hated the fact that I didn't drop Alabama down to 14. But we had it ranked for Georgia's number 1, and Georgia has a big game this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Cincinnati, or no, we went Georgia, Iowa, Cincinnati, and then Oklahoma. And then just on the outskirts looking in is Ohio State and Alabama. But I don't know, guys. Did I make a mistake here? Like, I felt like
according to everybody in the Big Ten country, you're a fucking moron. Which is funny because you're a Big Ten guy.
Yeah, like Spartans all the way.
So I thought that was really funny. So like, if they actually knew how much you're a Big Ten homer, and you told me they're the best conference in football since the year I've met you,
100% they are.
They're like, well, they lost to an unranked team. I'll take an unranked Texas A&M team against majority of the teams in the Big Ten any day of the week.
And let's be real. Like there was 110,000 people at the game. At a certain point, you have to remember these are 19 and 20-year-old kids that could get a little bit intimidated if things get a little rocky.
Mm-hmm. I
And
just
like
feel like for
Alabama's not in too many contests. Sorry to cut you off, Galen. Sorry, yeah. But Alabama's not in games like that. And they have a freshman quarterback. He's not a true freshman. It's his first year starting this year.
Yep.
And it's the biggest game he's probably ever played in. And yeah, the game was on the line. I didn't get to see it, so I'm not going to sit here and try to critique how Bryce played. But you put up 38 points on offense. The problem probably wasn't the offense. You lose on a last-second field goal. And these fucking morons in Michigan and fucking Ohio are like, exile them. They're out. No, guys. Like, I can tell you right now, if Alabama gets in the dance, you don't want to play them in the first round.
Pass, yeah.
I feel like Alabama has earned the right over the last decade plus to take a loss and not take a significant drop in the standings, though, too, right?
But they did. I mean, they dropped 4 spots. It's not like, or 5 spots. It's not like they didn't do anything. It's just if people actually looked at it logically with a brain, and I know that's difficult for a lot of people to use their brain when they read stuff, but if you read it, you would see that that's just their path to the dance itself. Alabama, all they need to do is win out, which sounds not as hard as you would think. And they're going to play a probably undefeated Georgia team.
Oof.
And if you beat an undefeated Georgia team in the SEC championship game,
you're going back into the dance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys in Michigan, Ohio, and Iowa, and anywhere else. That's just happening. There's 2 SEC teams in. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Iowa's the one that stands around for much longer, or B's was the one that's standing there at the end, by any means.
Iowa?
Yeah.
Well, and that's a different thing. So let's just say that if we were only basing this off who the favorite is, and if we were only basing it off who the favorite is on the spread, we're lining up for a Big Ten championship game between Iowa and Ohio State. Now, if Ohio State beats Iowa, and their only loss is to the number 9 team, Oregon, well, Ohio State's in too. So we might be looking at this in a few weeks being like, well, Cincinnati just got screwed over. Cincinnati might get screwed over because Oklahoma has probably done enough. They made a potential switch at quarterback. I don't know if that's been made official, but it looked pretty official to me when I was watching the game. And
you haven't checked the practice reps? 60-40, I think, was the first day, and it went 70-30 the second day for practice reps of first team. Rattler was on the second team the whole time. So,
of course he was, but it looked pretty obvious to me when it was all breaking down. But if you're looking at a 1-loss Alabama SEC champion, a 1-loss Georgia team who only lost in the SEC championship game, a 1-loss Ohio State team, Big Ten champion, and Oklahoma, who's potentially the Big 12 champion, who's probably going to be undefeated. Those are the 4 teams in. And no matter what Cincinnati does, you can kick and scream all you want. You can hang a banner like Central Florida did. You're out.
How should I feel about that?
Well, I mean,
it doesn't matter how he feels. It's a true story.
No, but I can imagine that you've had. It sounds like you've said this to one person before, and I feel like it might be Sean, and I just wonder how he's feeling about it.
No, he's talking about Notre Dame when they were a 1-loss team. We were on the bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I was thinking about this because when I was writing that article, I was like, man, I went through the schedules and I was like, ugh, Cincinnati doesn't play anybody, so it's going to be tough to unseed them because. It's okay. They need Notre Dame to run the table. That's what they need. Yeah.
They need a 1-loss Notre Dame team. They need a 1-loss Notre Dame team to run the table. If Notre Dame loses 2, I'm really hoping we don't lose 3. If we lose 3, Cincinnati's credentials are gone because that's their only win.
Yeah, their second best win right now is against Indiana, and Indiana is going to be fighting to be bowl eligible. And they're supposed to be a much better team. And they were a better team when they put it on there, but Indiana's quarterback hasn't been able to stay healthy. So it doesn't sound like any of us are really in disagreement of the teams that I put where I did. I completely exiled BYU and Arkansas. One lost BYU team isn't getting back in. Arkansas lost their second game. There's no chance. It's gonna be a great season for them. Their coach turned things around, but
Has Iowa lost yet?
no.
No, not yet.
So-
yeah.
And they play in
unfortunately,
the-
we talked about Arkansas highly, and that's why they started losing, right?
Probably. And we like for a team like Iowa, they're in the Big Ten West, so their biggest competition is supposed to be a team like Wisconsin or Northwestern.
So my
And-
question is, Shane. Sorry, finish that first. I have a question.
No,
after.
fire away. I was done.
So, if Iowa runs a table, Georgia runs a table, we think Oklahoma, they should get in, obviously. Would you put an undefeated, really weak scheduled Cincinnati team in ahead of a 2-loss Alabama, Ohio State team?
No, I
If
don't
they
think so.
compete. It's like if Alabama loses on the last second field goal again to Georgia, do you give them the 4 seed?
I would say you would give them the 4 seed if you had any kind of expansion plan put in place, but it seems like the playoff expansion got kiboshed already, and there's no way that these guys want to answer questions. I know it comes down to selling tickets, but I think a team like Cincinnati could probably sell a little bit of tickets against whoever they're playing. I mean, they're going to lose their first game anyway, but you want Ohio State and Alabama to be there, and you'll put them in with 1 loss, but 2 losses. Have we ever had a playoff team with 2 losses?
I don't know. I don't think so. But
I don't
just
think
like,
so.
I'm just like looking down like that list. I'm trying to think of. There's some good football teams that might have 2 losses.
Yeah.
And then what happens, right? Like, hey, maybe Cincinnati does go out there and shocks the world. I don't see it happening. But I would think that a team like Alabama or Ohio State have a better chance of winning that semifinal and making that game competitive, especially better for TV, than an undefeated Bearcat team.
Well, and you're right, and for TV purposes, you're 100% right. But if we're talking that, now we have to expand a little bit, because if we were looking at a 1-loss Pac-12 champion as Oregon, their loss was to Stanford, but they also beat Ohio State. So if we're talking about putting in a 2-loss team over Cincinnati, we'd be talking about putting in Oregon over all of those teams. So, I mean, I'm kind of glad I'm not on that committee, because it sounds like it's a thankless job. No matter, you're only going to make 4 people happy, and you're going to piss off the other 200 teams.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be like, we haven't even talked about it, but like, think of the people of Coastal Carolina that actually think that they should be a part of this thing.
Yeah, they're morons too.
Every team
Yeah.
deserves a little recognition when you're doing things you haven't done in years. That's all it is, right?
All right. Well,
What's a
we have
Texas answer?
we have a special reserved question for our girl Kelly down there in Oklahoma, but I'm gonna have you guys answer it because I haven't seen her pop on here with any comments. So it means that she's probably behind us a little bit. They're in a little bit of a different time zone, but it's going to be a Spencer Rattler conversation. So Chad and I were having this conversation on Monday because we were having a couple beers, and I think that he is going to forgo the draft and enter the transfer portal and potentially go somewhere and just try and make a name for himself. Chad dropped some names, and I'm not going to spoil it because that'll be his conversation to have. But is that real, or is he just going to go to the NFL? Like, has this guy done enough for an NFL team to even take him in the 3rd round and make him, like, you know, draw a parallel to a guy like Dak Prescott, who was the 1st overall pick, and then he got a Dewey, and then he had to go back to school, and then they kind of had a tough year, and he ends up going in the 4th round, and now he is what he is. So is that a path for Spencer Rattler, or is he's toast?
You go first.
All right. So
Kalen, you go first.
I sent you guys a video from a show that he was in, that QB1 or whatever show from back when he was in high school, and he's there basically just harassing his fellow teammates and acting like an asshole, not a team leader by any means. And this is in high school. A lot of kids make mistakes in high school. He got pulled out of that game, and the first touchdown that happened, everybody's jumping up and down and celebrating. He's looking around. You can see the look in his face. Oh my God, my job might be on the line. This might happen to me again against Texas. The game ends. The entire team and the fans storm the field. And the first person off the field, no, it was not a Longhorn player. It was Rattler walking through the locker room by himself. So I think in my opinion, it's a terrible decision for him if he was to go to the transfer portal. I think that teams would look back on his footage from what I showed you guys there, acting like an absolute asshole in high school, him walking out on his team after a massive come from behind victory against the biggest rival your team has ever had. And then, doing a transfer with walking out on the team when they're 5-0 to go to another team because you don't have enough footage. Work your way back up, I think, is the best answer for this kid. As far as taking a flyer on him in the third or fourth or further round, I think that's absolutely doable. I think he has shown enough. Every kid is going to have a tough game. Texas just had his number. I mean, it's not like every other team has beat him up like this. He's had some very, very good games, right? Texas just back-to-back years was able to take him out of the game somehow. So I think that you could certainly take, if you're going to take a flyer on a player like Dak Prescott, you got to take a flyer on a guy like Spencer. I just don't know if it's going to be there. I don't think he's mentally going to be capable. I think he's Ryan Leaf.
Well, I mean, right now it sounds like he's the reverse of Joe Burrow.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is this. I actually thought about him just saying, fuck it, I'm going pro, and going in that mid-round range. I didn't realize he was only 6'1" until I looked it up today. And so right away I was like, oh, you didn't do enough to be a 6'1" quarterback going into the NFL. So now you have to transfer.
In a team that just continues to turn out NFL quarterbacks.
Heisman Trophy candidates, NFL quarterbacks, guys were transferring to play for Lincoln Riley. And now you're doing the complete opposite. I was trying to think of places to go, and of course I made the smart-ass comment about going to Notre Dame. I don't know if he's smart enough. That's not an insult on him. It's just I don't know what his grades are like. They won't bring anybody in unless you have a 4.0 GPA or a 3.8 GPA just to even be looked at.
Right.
So, of course I would take him. I think he's better than any quarterback on our roster. You got to think, like, this is like literally the Tom Brady thing in the NFL where it's like the biggest free agency ever. Like, he could be maybe the biggest player that's ever gone into the transfer portal in the last 5-10 years.
Well, the most recent one, I guess, was probably about 5 years ago, and that was Justin Fields leaving Georgia.
Yeah. And I would put this at the same kind of thing there, right? Same kind of level as that. Shane brought up Arizona State. I don't think he's going to go back home. There's just the programs aren't good enough for him. It doesn't make any sense.
I think Arizona State has been proven to be turning out NFL players. And if I were him and if I wanted to go to a place and kind of shine, and you know that your coach at Arizona State has NFL ties, like I think that that's a smart play. It's probably not the one he's going to make, but like that makes sense to me.
Being 6 foot that Chad had mentioned there. One of the things, I don't know if you guys had the chance to, or if you're watching the game or not, the first play after the backup quarterback came in for them, it was a rushing touchdown, like a 67-yard rushing touchdown. It was crazy, right? Yeah. That was an element that this new quarterback or the backup quarterback brought to the game that Spencer couldn't bring. If you were going to be 6 foot, you have damn well got to be mobile. You've got to be Kyler Murray. You've got to be able to get out of the pocket. And Spencer is, I would say, mobile in college. I don't think that mobility is going to transfer to the NFL level very, very well.
He's not mobile enough in college, though.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, exactly it. He can get by, but he's not like his backup. He's not going to get a 67.
Yeah, he's not getting the good. Like, think about it. Baker can move enough, but Baker got out and made plays. Mm-hmm. Kyler is an animal. Jalen Hurts is built like a fucking fullback. Unfortunately for Spencer, he's none of those three things. Mm-mm. He's a good quarterback. I think he's actually a very good quarterback, as much as I ripped on him earlier. Skill-wise, he's actually really good. But I don't think when their interior line is playing the way that it is, he's not quick enough to get out. He might be fast, but he's not quick. That first 2 steps is too slow for him. And by that point in college, you're dead. And he doesn't look downfield. That was the other thing I noticed. When I watched the West Virginia game, and they stole his fucking lunch money. But anytime he had to move, he wasn't looking down the field. And if your first read's not there, your second read's not there, and you're still waiting in the backfield, your day's over. If your second read's not there, you should already be moving. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to succeed. And if you are going to move, get laterally in college. This side-to-side stuff will not work. He's not fast enough to do that to make plays happen. But I do think if going to another school and getting the right chance, finding a coach that believes in him and his ability, which there's going to be every school's going to go after him if they can. I don't think his reputation is that bad, as much as I think he's a spoiled little brat. I think this will give him that little sense of humble, and I think he's going to bounce back from it. And I hope he does for his sake.
Well, how lucky is Oklahoma to have a Mr. Insurance Man, such as the quarterback they brought in, much like our friends over at Toboggan, who will brew you up a nice Mr. Insurance Man. I'm actually due to go there. It's been a while since we've been there, so I think we're due to go check that place out. Is that about all you guys got for college football? Because I got a couple NFL things to get back to.
Yeah, let's go back to the pro so Liam doesn't tell us to stop talking.
I don't know. I just want to give you a little congratulations to your Spartans, bro. Like,
Ooh,
what? They're having
appreciate
a hell of a year. I don't know if you guys talked about that. I'm sure you probably did on Monday.
We didn't want to jinx it.
Holy shit,
so
man.
right now they are quietly where they are. They have 2 Heisman candidates on their team. We're just taking it one game at a time. I think Mel Tucker turned it around. We'll see. Like I said, in the article I put out, they have a big test on the 30th of October where they're probably going to play an undefeated Michigan team, and that might determine the team that has a chance to push Ohio State. But yeah, I mean, so far it's been nice to watch, and they now have more wins this year than they have in the last 2 years combined. So that's fun to talk about. Yeah, for once.
Do you think you talk about Heisman there? Do you think the Texans might have one still, or is it too late with them with 2 losses? I always wonder that. I know that you would never put an MVP to a team that didn't make the playoffs, but can you give the Heisman to a team that had 2 or maybe even 3 losses in a year?
Yeah, Lamar was one.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah, and Saquon Barkley had it's not necessarily about wins and losses. It's about the gaudy stats that you put up, and right now, I mean, if you have to pick somebody, I'm going to say it's either Bryce Young or Matt Corral.
Oh, Matt Corral looks so good right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, looks really good, and we'll see how that translates to
Spencer Rattler.
Can you imagine if Ole Miss had Matt Corral and they would have had DK and AJ there at the same time? Then that would have been just insane. That offense would have been wild.
Well, and another guy too, right? The other guy that's he's on the Jets, I think.
Elijah Moore.
Is that who it is?
He was there last night.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean that's some pretty quality receivers that they're turning out. And we're going to talk about a team that I'm not sure has a lot of quality receivers. They have okay receivers. I think that right now they're in a position that maybe the Titans were in over the last couple of years, where they have a bunch of 2s and no 1s. The Carolina Panthers, were we too high on them after 3 games? I mean, it's been two losses in a row. This last one was pretty epic loss.
Yeah, it fucked up my nice parlay I had, so fuck them.
Okay,
no,
but
I don't think
were we too high on them, or do we still expect good things from them?
I expect good things. Their defense is still too good. Their defense is I think the number 4 overall defense in the league. I think the only thing that's hurting them right now is they had a couple of bad turnovers in the last couple of games, which really kind of hurt them. But their turnover differential before that was really high, and they're about to get Gilmore, who's going to come off the pup soon here. He very well. Let's remember the J.C. Horn turned out to be probably the best corner in the draft. So losing him was significant. So maybe I'll have somebody like Gilmore come in and pick up the slack. And Robinson, I don't know what he's going to bring to the table, but he's only been there 3 weeks. So maybe he's finally just getting used to the defense too. I'm not worried about their defense. And Sam Darnold's just showing just enough to be able to carry that. He's kind of like that Rexy. You know what I mean? Like as long as the defense can do what they're doing, he can do just enough.
You did not just compare him to sexy Rexy.
He kind of is, man. I mean, like I think that Sam Darnold brings more to the table than Rex, but not much.
I think Liam brings more to the table than Rex.
Jeez.
Hey, he went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, I think the Panthers are going to be fine, and not because of their defense and not because of Sam Darnold, but because McCaffrey's not that seriously injured. He's still kind of practicing. He's probably not going to play this week, but I think he'll be back next week. And as long as they have him, it makes him a little bit more dynamic. And Sam Darnold was an upgrade from Teddy Bridgewater and the last couple of years of Cam Newton for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Like Cam Newton in his prime is better than Sam Darnold, probably.
His MVP year, so 2015. I guess even 2016 he probably was better than Darnold.
Yeah,
he still had 25 touchdowns that year or something like that.
You'd think. And at this point, he just needs to do enough, and their defense is good enough. Are they going to finish second in that division or third? Because the Saints are. I have no idea how to read the Saints.
I have no
I think-
clue who the Saints are. I think the Carolina's the 2 seed there. I think Carolina just has to survive 2 more weeks. Get Calf back healthy. Like Kalen said, it is the defense. They're just going to run the show there. Sam Darnold's a good quarterback. He lost the most valuable player. Probably could be in the NFL if he could stay healthy, unfortunately for him. But he can do everything. And that's a quarterback's best friend. You have a running back who can rush for 1,000 and catch 80 balls.
Right.
So if they can just survive till he gets back, I think that's a team that can win 10 games.
Well, they need to make their push now, boys. Listen to how they're. So right now they got the Vikings, Giants, Falcons, right, and they got the Patriots, and they go into the Cardinals. But they listen how they end the season: Bills, Bucs, Saints, Bucs.
Oof.
That's a hell of a way to end the year, man. So they got to make their push now if they're going to make it, because that Saints team is going to be fighting. I don't think the Bucs team's going to be fighting. They're probably going to have the division wrapped at that point, but the Saints team will be for sure.
If Carolina does what you're telling them to do, this might the Bucs might just shit stop them because it's for first place, right? If you're looking at a 7-2 Panthers team and maybe whatever, I don't know, whatever the record for the Bucs is going to be, there's a chance that they have the same record.
They're like the last. It's like week 15, 16. Like 15 is Bucs, 16 Saints, 17 is Bucs again. So it's the very end of the year. The division might already be wrapped by then. You're only in the
we're not
tail
sitting
end.
nobody.
Yeah.
They got nobody to
But yes,
sit.
they got to make their push now because they do not have weak teams in the tail end of the year, and that's going to be a difficult go in the winter months, man.
Yeah. I still have faith in them. Obviously, we put them into our Super Boost, so this is their chance to re-win Chad's faith. Now, we got about 5 minutes here, and I had broken the AFC down into 3 tiers. The 4th tier are the teams we're not even going to talk about. They're the shit teams. We don't even need to talk about them. But
So the Titans?
no, the Titans made it into one of the contending tiers. So these are the teams that I think have a realistic chance right now, are still like a chance to make the playoffs. And I just kind of graded them based on the games that they played. So through 5 games. So the top 2 teams in the AFC, I'm not sure there's going to be any argument about it. It's the Bills and the Chargers.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then, we dropped down a couple of tiers. And then we're looking at the Browns, the Ravens, the Titans.
Oh, God, that must hurt you to say all at one time, eh?
The Bengals, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Chiefs. So that's kind of the teams that are like, you just don't know what you have yet. I don't think that the Bengals have what you think that they have. I'm not convinced that the Browns do either. You can't say that the Browns are a defensive team when they get shit stomped like that by the Chargers. You can't give up that many yards and claim you're a defensive team. Now they did keep in the game, and obviously the score was close, but I don't see any way that the Browns could compete against a team like that with the kind of defense that they have. I think that their defense is maybe a titch bigger than or better than the Chiefs, maybe. And that's only because Myles Garrett and some of the other guys in the defensive line can rush the passer. Okay. That's how I feel about that.
Why don't you like the Bengals, though? Like, what is it about the Bengals that you're not enjoying so far? Because they put up a hell of a fight against the Pack.
Yeah, and I mean, the Packers put up a hell of a fight against themselves, too. But what don't I like about them? I don't rely on a team that has to chuck the ball down the field for, like, circus plays. I don't think that Jamar Chase having 65-yard touchdowns is because he's a skilled receiver. And I'm saying that as the person that told you he was the best receiver in the draft. It doesn't speak to the narrative that people are creating for the Bengals. They obviously want the Bengals to be good. Everybody wants a new team to look better. Joe Burrow is okay, but you could tell that as a quarterback he doesn't know how to take care of himself. Their offensive line, their offensive line is average. Joe Mixon is okay, I guess, but injury prone. You think where are you ranking Joe Mixon in running backs in the league? Top 15?
I would put him much higher than that, Shane. I would probably put that guy in the top between 5 to 7 running backs.
5 to 7.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously we're gonna have Derrick Henry number 1, right?
Okay. Yep.
I gotta think. I know that Ezekiel has had a down year, but I still think that Ezekiel Elliott, especially with his pass blocking being improved, has got to be that number 2 running back there.
Okay.
CMC, a healthy CMC for me is going to come in at number 3 because he provides
Saquon?
so much to the team. That's a problem. What have we seen out of Saquon? You guys know I love the Giants, man. You know I love Saquon Barkley.
How are you going to put CMC there but not Saquon?
Yeah,
Because
they've
CMC's
had the same
produced.
production.
No, CMC's been in the year and had a second contract, whereas Saquon Barkley has not. He's had 2 years and he's been hurt 2 years.
Okay,
you look at a
so
player
you
like
would
Joe
take Joe
Mixon-
Mixon. Okay, you want to take Joe Mixon over Saquon Barkley? That's fine. Aaron Jones.
I think that they do incredibly similar things. Actually, that's one of the best comparisons. If you want to look at an NFC running back comparable to Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones is it. Absolutely. Catches the ball,
No.
pass blocks. He's a three down running back. He does everything.
If you want to look for an NFC running back that compares to Joe Mixon, it's Jamal Williams, the backup for Detroit.
Stop it.
Uh,
A backup is better than the starting running back for the Bengals. You're such an in-division hater right now. I just
So-
talked up Marlon Mack. Come on.
when it comes down to it, you'd probably want James Robinson over Joe Mixon. You're gonna want Jonathan Taylor. You're gonna want Devontae Swift. You're probably even taking Najee Harris, who Joe
What
Mixon
is the
is not
reasoning
good
for
man.
this?
Also,
Why?
none of those guys punched a female in the face, so they're already better than him in my books.
Yeah. Joe Mixon is a piece of shit in real life and in football life, and I don't know anybody that would want him. Now, if you want to find an improvement, you want me to say, sorry, Liam, I know we're in overtime. Give me a sec. If you want to find like a bright spot, I guess their defense is a little bit better for now.
And they got to pick up today. We'll see how that works out for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, their defense is better because they can rush the passer. I mean, and they got the guy from the Saints.
Trey
last year,
Hendrickson, man. Oh my God, he is
he's
an
been
animal.
good.
Yeah,
But
one of the biggest
The
pickups
Bengals-
for defense.
this
think
is just this is what the Bengals do. They're 3-2 now. I don't know who they have. They have the Lions this week, so I'm not even going to count it. But they have to play some pretty tough games down the stretch here. There's just no way, man. Bengals stink. And then outside looking in would be Steelers and Patriots, which, they're both teams that I don't really know how to get a read on the Patriots, to be honest. I thought that they'd be better than they are, and it seems like they should be worse than they are, so I have no read on them. The Steelers, we'll see how they do against the Seahawks, and then they have the Browns coming out of the bye, so that's something to look at there. But when you guys hear those names, those teams, is anybody out of place? And I mean, are the tiers that clear cut?
I honestly think there's 2 teams in the AFC and everybody else is just kind of there. Like, I don't see really any separation between 3 to 7, 3 to 8. Like, I guess you could say the Chiefs, just given the fact that they are the Chiefs and 2-time defending Super Bowl goers. But outside of that, the Browns, I don't know how you explained the other 2 teams are like the Steelers and the Patriots of what they are. I actually don't know what the Browns are. I don't. I think they're having an identity crisis right now. They run the ball phenomenal. They built their defense. They're allowing 40 points. So I guess it's to 2 really good offenses. But what are you going to do when you get to the playoffs and that's happening still? The only thing that benefited them is the fact they can run the football so they can slow a game down. But, like, luckily in the AFC, it snows in Buffalo. Kansas City, shit weather. But, yeah, if they have to go to San Diego, they might not be able to do that to them. You can't run the ball on them.
Yeah,
Like,
there
they
won't
need
be
to
a
play
whole lot of
cold
fans
weather
there in
win.
San Diego.
Yeah, probably not. They're
Right,
never
and-
going to play in LA in my life, all right? So just give it up. Every week I've called them the San Diego Chargers.
I think the AFC picture is going to come a little bit more clear after this week because you have the Chargers are playing the Ravens, and the Browns are playing the Cardinals. That's a big test for them. And then Monday night, which we didn't talk about any Monday night games because we're going to talk about it on Monday when we're live again. The Bills and the Titans. I think that might be one of the biggest games in I don't know.
Buddy, I think the Bills might set the record for sacks in that game. I'll say that right now. They got a rotating
Ooh.
defensive line like I haven't
That's
seen
the
in years,
spirit.
man. Listen, I'm going to tell you where we falter, and that where we falter is sacks. We're leading the league in it for
Yeah.
sure. But we
All right.
also get to see your boys.
Kalen, you're an AFC guy too. So,
Yeah.
and am I off on these 3 tiers, or what do you think?
Man, I've been hype on the Chargers for a long time, and yeah, the Bills are a different breed, man. They have it all. They got the charisma on offense. They've got what they need on defense. McDermott is not taking shit from anybody this year. So they got a great head coach. Everybody's looking up. Like Chad said, everybody's looking up.
Perfect. All right. Well, everything's looking up for us too because we're about to get out of here. But
Football!
yeah, make sure that you hit that super boost with us. Check it out on any of our socials. Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you're following and subscribing. YouTube. Don't just hit the heart button. You got to hit the bell so that you know when our stuff is popping up too. Always make sure you check out the Twitch. Kalen already had his kids, so he doesn't have any more excuses to not be playing games on there anymore. So we will definitely be doing that. And boys, any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Bucs by 15.
Whoa!